Good morning, everyone, and thanks for being here with us this morning for our Nucamp open house. We're excited to have you. My name is Karim Ludo. I'm the CEO of Nucamp, and together with me today is Ludo Fourage.
Hello, everyone.
Ludo is our Chief Learning Officer, and he'll jump in a little while to tell you a little bit more about what it is to be a web developer and what the curriculum is all about. But I first want to get started with a brief introduction of Nucamp. Meanwhile, you can start posting any questions you have on the chat, and we will spend about 30 minutes first with presentation, and then we'll get to your questions and spend another 30 minutes or about that answering the questions you have. And hopefully we'll have this to be a really interactive session together. So with that, let's get started with just a brief intro on who we are. Nucamp is the most affordable, local, and flexible boot camp available in the US. We are a evening and weekend format. And really our social mission is help as many people as possible shift careers and have the opportunity to enter the digital economy. We do this by offering quality web development education, but we do this at a very affordable price. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And we do this both in big cities, but also in smaller cities and in places that are underserved or around the country. So, how did Nucamp come to be, really? It really started with Ludo looking at what was available out there for people wanting to transition career and identifying two major options available. The first one being learning to code on your own online. It's a very flexible way of doing it. It's easy to access the information and the curriculum. You can do it from anywhere. It's actually pretty low cost. It's sometimes even free, but it's really, really tough to go through a complete boot camp or a complete curriculum on your own. The completion rates are very low. For two reasons. It's hard to stay motivated. We're all human. And so without some sort of schedule and structure, it's tough to have the self-discipline to go through the complete program. But also coding is tough. You hit obstacles. You have to debug what you're doing. And at some point, you need some support to help you get unstuck. And so coding boot camps are the other option that was available until recently. Traditional coding boot camps, which are usually full-time format. So they require you to stop working. They're very efficient if you can afford them, but they're pretty costly. So if you can quit your job, pocket out an average $12,000 and commit to a 5 or 6 month program in person as a full-time activity, then that's probably a good opportunity because you've got a good chance of finding a job after that. But for many, it's just not an option. Because those boot camps, not only are they expensive and full-time, but they're also present only in a few cities. And so Nucamp came in to sort of fill the gap between those two options with a hybrid format, which allows you to continue to work while you learn to code, which gives you flexibility to learn online during the week at your own pace. But at the same time gives you the structure that you need to go through the program and the support you need to go through the program. And most importantly, it's much, much affordable. Our programs for our full stack bootcamp start at $1,620 as an early bird pricing. So that's very, very affordable. And we still preserve the quality of the education that you deserve with having small groups and a dedicated instructor to support you. So what's our history? Where did we start? Where are we today? We started in Washington State in 2017, and we already launched 70 boot camps. Since then, we've delivered more than 250 workshops, and 700 students have gone through the program. So we're a well-established organization. We've actually revamped and tuned our curriculum several times already. And we have over 100 instructors that are working in the industry that are supporting you online and actually teaching you on the weekends. I think it's best to go and check out our reviews on sites like Course Report or also SwitchUp, and you'll see what students have to say about us. So what are the boot camps that are available with Nucamp? We're very focused on web development. And again, Ludo will get into the details, But at a high level, we have 3 boot camps that we offer. The first one is our web development fundamentals. It's a beginner boot camp. It's only 4 weeks long, and it really gives you the basics of web development. It's a way for you to test out whether this is something you like, whether this is something you think you can make a career out of. So for beginners that have no exposure to coding at all, this is a great way to start, a very affordable price of $320 at early bird pricing. And from then you can then decide, okay, this is for me, and choose one of our 2 advanced boot camps, front-end web and mobile development, or the full stack track. And these are the advanced boot camps that really will give you the skills to go get a job in the market out there. The format of the boot camps are always the same. During the week, from Sunday to Friday, you look at videos, you go through different exercises, you work on your projects, but you also have additional material if you're a little quicker to explore more resources. And of course, during that time, you always have the support of your instructor online. And the week builds to the Saturday workshop. The Saturday workshop is sort of like the capstone of the week. That's where you solidify the learning that you've gone through. You have a major assignment to go through, and you're doing this with your instructor. So it's a classroom format with a maximum of 12 other students. It's a 4-hour session, and then you really work together with your instructor, but also with your classmates, because a lot of the projects are actually done in small groups. It's hard work. It's hard work during the week, because you actually need to dedicate 1 to 3 hours per day. And it's also work on the weekend, 4 hours of workshop, and then on Sunday, again, working on your material. But that's the way we're able to deliver the depth of curriculum that other boot camps do full time in a much more packed but more flexible format. We have news as well to announce today. So far, we've only offered our workshops in an in-presence format, but we're now offering it as well as online remote workshops via video conference. And this is really in response to students' feedback, in particular in smaller cities where we didn't have enough students to form a class and we had to postpone the classes. We want to be able to offer more opportunities to the cities. So we've offered now the option to register for a video conference workshop on Saturdays instead of an in-person workshop. It's very similar to our traditional path. It's the same curriculum. It's the same experience throughout. You are still grouped in a cohort with classmates from your community. It's still a maximum of 12 students, so it remains a small group. We're not doing any sort of big online program. And you also group with the students of your community, which means you have an opportunity to meet with them, to actually work together in small group if needed. And of course, it's the same instructor that is with you throughout the class, guiding you during the week online through chat, and then in video conference, looking at what you are doing on the weekend. We have a pretty advanced setup for this. So your instructor, it's a very immersive experience that we worked on. Your instructor will be obviously, talking to you, you'll be able to see him, but he also is going to be able to see what you're doing on the screen, correct what you're doing, and helping you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about our workshop locations on the weekend. So for the boot camps that are in presence on Saturdays, we really try to find locations that are, nice and friendly, where you really want to spend 4 hours on a Saturday morning. But more importantly, we try to partner with co-working spaces that are aligned with our social mission of making coding more affordable and more available, and that are plugged into the local software development community. So a lot of these spaces actually host independent software developers, that do consulting. We'll host meetups around software development. So it's a great way to network or start networking for those of you who are completely new to coding with what's going on in your city in web development. And then the last component really of Nucamp, what makes Nucamp so special, is our instructors. I want to talk a little bit about that because it's really, I think, what we have most precious to offer. Our instructors are very different from some of the other traditional coding boot camps in the sense that they're all what we call industry practitioners. They mostly have a full-time job or are active consultants in the area of web development. So what they will teach you is not academic concepts, it's actually real world skills that they are using in their job every day. And that's really important as you prepare for interviewing, as you prepare to actually get out in the job market. They're very different, but they have a few things in common aside from being just professionals in the industry. They're all passionate and excited to give back. The reason they joined Nucamp is not for the money. We compensate them, but it's not a great pay. They really do this because they want to help. They like our social mission. They align with it, and so they want to give back. It's interesting, actually, a lot of them have gone through coding boot camps and sort of or have lived the journey that you're about to start. And so they want to help others go through that same journey and be successful as well. And then they're local. That's really important. So they may be very different, but they're all plugged into the local community. And that's really important, especially as you start to prepare for interviews, you prepare to actually go get a job out there. You want to know people that are connected locally where you are trying to get a job. So that's actually, from what our students tell us, one of the big benefits of having those instructors be local. And then finally, I mentioned they have a diverse background, which for students is really important because it gives them just different flavors of what their future career could be like. Among our instructors, you have some that work in big tech companies, Microsoft or Google. You have independent consultants, for example, that are building websites for their clients. You have developers that actually work in startups, so a very different environment where they tend to do everything from soup to nuts. So as you go through the different classes of a bootcamp, the full stack curriculum, for example, has 4 different classes. You may get 4 different instructors and get to know different career paths and just different flavors of what development is like out there in the job market. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ludo, our expert here, Ludo, our Chief Learning Officer, to tell you a little bit more about what it is to be a web developer and how our curriculum aligns with that.
Thank you. Thank you, Karim. And just want to say a shout out to Fred and Jessica, who are either instructors or instructors waiting for their interviews. It's always great to see people from the community. Hey, Fred. So why do we do that? And why do you actually evaluate a coding bootcamp? It's certainly because you are interested in the career and the prospects that it's offering. We have a curriculum that is based 100% on JavaScript. And we chose JavaScript because it is really the #1 language for web development. You may have heard of platforms like WordPress or other platforms that are kind of drag and drop. You can't really make a web development career out of this. If you want to really build a career in web development, you'll most likely pick JavaScript. And JavaScript has been around for pretty much the beginning of the web and has been #1 web development language for 5 years in a row. The average salary for a junior web developer is $70,000. Now, of course, it depends on where you live. And we actually have the details of that data for your community on our website if you want to check it out. But it's a pretty high entry-level salary. That's, of course, making it so attractive for people to get into this market in the first place. We have a ton of resources on our website. We have a blog that talks about how to prepare for getting a job after a bootcamp. So you're very much encouraged to check it out. Later on in this presentation, we'll also talk about case studies and success stories from graduates. What did they do after the bootcamp? So you want to probably stick around for that as well. Now let's talk about the curriculum. I mentioned JavaScript. And so really throughout this curriculum, there is one common denominator, and that's going to be JavaScript. Karim mentioned the 3 bootcamps that we offer. Those 3 bootcamps, if you look deeper into those, it's really a succession of 5 modules that just make perfect sense, being presented one after the other. And so you will start with the introduction or web development fundamental bootcamp, where we really help you acquire the fundamentals of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It's a 4 weeks bootcamp, $320. You don't have to take that bootcamp. You can actually look up a test that we have on our website that will really help you figure out if you have the skills needed to then start in one of the next 2 bootcamps, either the full stack one or the front end one. And we will actually start pretty fast into Bootstrap. Bootstrap is a JavaScript library that was built by Twitter and is about creating what we call responsive website. Now, you may wonder, what is a responsive website? Well, it's pretty simple to understand. A responsive website is a website that will look great on a big TV screen, will look great on a PC, will look great on a tablet or on a mobile phone. And it will look great with one particularly interesting feature. It will be the same code that will make that site look great across all those devices. So really responsive means you write the website once, you code it once using Bootstrap, and then it will adapt itself to the size of the screen. It will rearrange the elements. So if you've ever played around with Chrome on a PC or laptop, and you try to actually just resize the screen and you see all the elements on the web just rearranging themselves, changing shapes sometimes so that it will look good, that's exactly what Bootstrap is about. And so it's very exciting to start with that. What it doesn't do though, and as it says on the slide, it's static. Like, it can't really adapt to new data. It's really hard to, if you wanted to fetch a dynamic catalog of product, or if you wanted to build a shopping cart, or if you wanted users to log in, Bootstrap doesn't know how to do that very, very well. What does that, though, is what we teach you next, which is React. React was developed 4 years ago now by Facebook, and it's taken the JavaScript world by storm. And it's exactly everything that Bootstrap really is not able to do, which is it really allows you to build complex data logic or complex business processes that will suddenly make your site dynamic. So you will be able to actually fetch data from your database to bring back the products, present them to your customer, add them to the cart. Or if you want to build a messaging app, it will allow you to store those messages, retrieve them real time, dispatch all the messages to all the people chatting at the same time. So really, that's what React does. It's very exciting as well. It's probably also the most challenging module that we have in our bootcamp. So when we say, for example, that you're expected to learn between 1 hour to 3 hours every day, think 1 hour every day is probably for web development fundamentals. 3 hours every day is React. That's the beast. Sometimes you're going to spend 4 hours. It's where really it's the capstone of our bootcamp in a way. But students are saying once you're past that, once you're at the end of React, and then you move on to React Native, things start to make sense and feel easier. Now, let me tell you about React Native. I really love that module because this is where I will say the magic happens. With React Native, you're going to take your website, which is a real website, that you will have used Chrome or Firefox to browse, and you're going to package it into an actual mobile application. And what I mean by mobile application, it's really something that your customers are going to be able to download from the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. They will not know it's also a website. they will look at it and use it as an application. And by that, what I also mean is your mobile application will have access to the mobile hardware device capabilities. So certainly your website will have access to the camera, to the GPS, to the accelerometer, to the phone interface itself, to the notifications. And so it's really interesting to see the progression, I would say, of your skills and your website to then suddenly become a mobile app. That's where front end ends. And by front end, we mean everything that you need to know to build beautiful user experiences is really delivered at that time. Now, if you want to know about the backend side, that database where all your products are going to live, or where are you going to store your user information and their authentication information? Where are you going to handle security? That's the last module, and that will be part of full stack. Now, what you may realize now as well is full stack includes front end, right? It's really the addition of that last module, the server-side module. And as I said, it's, again, JavaScript-based environment using Node.js, which is really at the core of everything. And then MongoDB is the database. It's not a traditional SQL database. It's a much more scalable type of database. In the industry, it's called a NoSQL database. And there we will also teach you the fundamentals of cloud computing. So we'll teach you how to get onto Amazon AWS, how to get into Microsoft Azure, how to get into Google Cloud to host your full application. What's really interesting about our approach, which I think also makes us unique, is what you've seen on the slide before is broken down by 4 to 5 weeks module, but also broken down by week. And there's one common denominator across those. It's what we call a learning project. The learning project is going to be something that you're going to build, and everybody's going to build the same at first. And every week, you're going to add depth to it. So it's going to start with Bootstrap, and every week, you're going to improve its quality and what it does, until at the end, after 22 weeks, having a really fully fleshed website, mobile app with a backend running on the cloud. Now, that's the learning project. What we're going to ask you to do as well is to work on your own portfolio project, your own idea, either on your own or as a group. And that project is going to follow the same path. It's going to start very simple at first with Bootstrap, and then you're going to add to it, add to it, add to it, to, in the end, make something that could be actually commercially viable. You're going to start with Bootstrap. You're going to actually then kind of refactor it with React because the code is slightly different, actually very much different. Oh, the good news, by the way, is React is using Bootstrap for everything that's responsive. So you won't lose much code. You'll have to refactor it. And then you're given an opportunity to then bring that code over to React Native. For some students, that's a little bit too much. They want to stick with React and continue through that, and that's fine. And then if you're in part of the full stack bootcamp, you want to, of course, add the backend component to it and then see your app deployed onto the web. And that's really how you wrap everything up. You can do that in group, which is our preferred and recommended solution, or you can do that solo as well if you would rather keep that to yourself and work on your own on it. All right, our bootcamp schedule. Well, dates are coming up pretty quickly. The good news is we have an early bird rate that's still available for front-end and full stack until the 28th. So you still have 4 days to take advantage of a 15% discount. As you can see here, November 11th is the start date for either one of those two. We're starting a new web development fundamental on November 18th. The early bird rate is pushed by a week for this one. And then if you missed that, the next cycle starts in 2020. So I would actually encourage you to think about, okay, are you ready to commit now? Karim and I and the team, we're also thinking about potentially a price increase next year. So we're not ready to commit to anything like that. But know that if you get into November 11th, you'll have the early bird price and you have the 2019 pricing as well. I mean, if there's a price increase, it's not going to be dramatic. It's still going to be under 2,000. But just so you know, that may be a wise thing to do it actually now. All right, these are testimonials that Karim mentioned earlier. You can read them on Course Report or SwitchUp. You can continue to hear us tell you how much we think what we're doing is great, but we thought you may actually want to have a break from that. And so here's actually a 1.5 minute video that kind of captures really the spirit of what we do and how students react to it. Stay after this video. We're going to answer all those questions. Continue to ask your questions. I can see them here from Susan. Darius has none other. There you go. So stay around for right after this video for a round of Q&A.
I wanted to look at a career opportunity that would be lucrative. And Nucamp kind of popped up, and I liked it a lot more than the other ones. I liked that it was more flexible. I didn't have to quit my current job.
They're basically very student-friendly.
And our instructor is awesome, Minay, and she's just really helpful, really above and beyond.
She's very helpful, and every time when I have a question, I can ask her and she can respond. The careers basically has no end. You can grow and grow.
I was really excited. Yeah, in fact, I mean, if anything, I was wanting to do more.
But I really like the way it's been this hybrid learning process.
I love that. I love that it's during the week, because I wouldn't have been able to do it if I had to meet every single day. So I love that I can find childcare on Saturdays, and the rest of the week it's online. But yeah, sometimes I'm doing my homework and I get all excited. I'm like, this could be my life. So it's kind of cool.
All right. So this gives you a flavor of, what the student experience is like and the testimonial from a student perspective. But we also want to just tell you a little bit more about some of the stories of our graduates. So I'll give you one example that I particularly like, which is Aaron. Aaron is actually one of our lead instructors today, but Aaron was, initially basically a long-haul commercial driver. He's one of our very first students. He was in our first cohort in Tacoma in Washington State. Went through the curriculum because really he was looking at his life at that point, and really thinking long term that he didn't want to stay in that career path. He had done a little bit of programming in high school, but had completely left it. So he came back to us, went through the curriculum, graduated, and then continued actually to work on coding for a little while, and started helping a Nucamp actually. And about a year later, he actually landed a job in a local software development company as a QA tester. He's been there for a little while now. He's really happy with his new job. What's exciting is he's returned actually to teach at Nucamp, actually has taken on more responsibility with Nucamp in addition to his full-time job. So that gives you also a flavor of the kind of people that come and become our instructors. So we're really super proud of him and his achievement, because it was definitely a challenging journey for him, especially studying while he was on the road. But yeah, he made it, and is pretty happy with his new career.
Yeah, I'll talk about James Peters. James has an interesting profile. He actually used to be at Amazon, but for many years actually stayed on the same software stack and felt like he was slowly but surely getting outdated in terms of knowledge. He joined our bootcamp, was probably one of our best students given his background, but very rapidly became really a super sponsor and proponent of what we were doing, and actually told everyone at Amazon about what we were doing. And now he's actually left Amazon and he actually joined a startup. He has a job that he loves as a software QA engineer, as you can see here. what's really interesting is since then, we've actually established a partnership with Amazon. I don't know if any one of you here works at Amazon in the warehouses, but you can actually ask Amazon to pay for the full tuition of Nucamp. So send us an email if you're not aware of that, but that's actually pretty cool what Amazon is doing in that space. Then I'll talk about Nasir Bush from Spokane. Nasir was one of our first students in Spokane, Washington a year ago, and was in a job that actually wanted him to move up to web development career because they had faith in him. They helped pay for the tuition. And Nasir was super excited about gaining those new skills. He left Nucamp like 9 months ago, and then actually came back very recently as an instructor in Spokane. And he's been doing tremendous. He's actually one of the highest rated instructor. And we actually love seeing that as well, because when you have an instructor that not only has the skills and the experience in the industry, but can also tell you about his own personal journey, about going through a boot camp, and really has that compassion for you as to what you're going through, I think it's, ultimately it's extremely powerful. And that's why also students love him.
All right, so hey, with this, why don't we turn to your questions?
There
you
you
have
go.
a lot of questions out there, so we'll go through hopefully all of them, we're going to start with questions from Darius on just where do we have our graduates today? Do we have a lot of New York City graduates? Or are they mostly on the West Coast? To be fair, most of our graduates are on the West Coast because that's what we started earlier. So we have just a bigger volume of students there. We actually have expanded to all of the US in early August. So we now have probably, I want to say 400 students or so that are going through the different classes across the US, and particularly the East Coast. But it's the same curriculum that students have gone through earlier. So the curriculum is tested out. It's the same experience. So, we're pretty comfortable in what we're delivering, whether on the East Coast or the West Coast.
Liz is asking for an example of the course outline. Liz, if you want to send us an email, or anyone actually who has that same question, at info@nucamp.co, we can send a full syllabus. It's a PDF file that has everything you will want to know. We have a short version of that on our website. If you look up the full stack page or the front end page, you'll have a shorter version of that. But yeah, shoot us an email and we'll send you the syllabus.
All right. The next question is, do we teach .NET?
We do not. We do not teach .NET. We are very much focused on JavaScript. From the front end to the back end. So it saddens me a little bit that we made that choice, given I spent 18 years of my career at Microsoft, and I was one of the first VB.NET developer back in the days. But yeah, I'm afraid we do not teach .NET.
And again, that's really goes to how we align with the job market and what's the biggest opportunity for people transitioning careers today. And it's definitely betting on the JavaScript stack. So when do we have to pay for the courses? So if you're think about the bootcamp, the intro bootcamp, it's just a one-time payment. You pay at registration. If you're going for an advanced bootcamp, there's a first payment at registration, and then after that, there's the second payment on the first day of the class, and then from then on, it's monthly, basically in 3 or 4 installments. So we try to make it manageable. Financially, ends up being payments that are $320, $330 if you're taking advantage of the early bird pricing. Do you teach people how to freelance? That's a good one. You want to take that one?
Yeah. So if you take the full stack bootcamp, I will say, or even the front end, we'll teach you the skills to be good at your job. We are not going to teach you to freelance necessarily, although what's interesting is you may have an instructor who's a freelance person. We can't guarantee that, but if that's the case, you'll have actually a great insight from that instructor into what it means to freelance. I will just say this, create an account on Upwork, publish a resume, what you do, your pricing range, and off you go in a way.
And then next two questions from Liz is sort of tied to that. They're sort of job and career oriented. So what kind of career services do we offer? Do we offer help with a resume and the portfolio? So we do offer some support. We have an online course, a 6-week online course that is available and that you can start to take as you move into React to prepare for your job search, which will cover basically the basics of resume building, LinkedIn profile building, networking, how to interview, how to just connect in the community. And then of course, you have the opportunity to interact with the other students, but also alums, which are part of our network, and with instructors. Instructors are actually a major resource as you start to look at job opportunities, because they are plugged in to the local job fairs, software development groups, et cetera, et cetera. What I always say as well is at the end of the day, those kind of jobs are really skill driven. So if you're strong on your skills and you have, some basic, I want to say soft skills and some experience with interviewing, you're in good shape. This is very different, from a sales position that you're applying for, which is, 90% soft skills. Here, you're going to be tested on what you know. You're going to come with your project. The quality of the portfolio that you will have built through the curriculum is going to be essential in the interviewing process. So, if you work and you really are serious about the curriculum, put in the hours, build your portfolio project, acquire the skills, you're in really great shape to land a job when you graduate.
Question from Marco Antonio Flores. Can I really develop the skills to build phone apps and building websites if I don't have any experience in the field? So the answer is yes, absolutely. You will start with the Web Development Fundamentals Bootcamp. But let me actually put the emphasis on the word that you've used, develop the skills. What that means is you will be always learning as a web developer. I am always learning as a web developer. When you choose that career, you choose a career that's going to force you to discover new things every day, stumble on trying to make something work every day, and move on and actually continue to learn and be better at what you do every day. So that situation that you're in, you're starting from a different point, and you're going to have to build up those skills. And I will say in 26 weeks, from web development fundamentals to the end of full stack, you'll have acquired a ton of skills. What's going to be in your way is two things. It's commitment. Are you going to stay committed to that path? And we're going to provide all the structure and the support that you need for that. Are you going to persevere as well? Perseverance is going to be critical because it may take hours for you and anyone, by the way, to try to make something work before it finally works. And so are you able to go through that motion of struggling for hours to make something work until it finally works? So those are the two things. And we know that. And so we've built Nucamp around that. We've built Nucamp to make sure that you'll stay committed and we'll help you with support that you need to persevere.
Okay, next question.
It's a good one, huh?
It's a good one. I'm going to take that one. I like it. So is the low price of the bootcamp really a reflection of the level of content? No, absolutely not. What's really special about Nucamp is that we've built the whole program and the model to align with our social mission, which is to make coding available and affordable to as many people as possible. So we've looked at the cost structures of the traditional boot camps and we've eliminated most of them. So we don't have fixed campuses that cost a lot of money. We use co-working spaces on the weekend, which actually really give us, a really attractive price because they like our social mission, because they're empty on the weekend anyway. So they're, able to offer capacity. So that way we cut on our infrastructure costs a lot. Our instructors are all working full-time, as I mentioned earlier. So we don't pay instructors full-time like some other boot camps. You know, if you're going to pay somebody full-time, you're going to be at the level of the job market, which is pretty expensive for software developers. But here, the people who join us, they want to help, and so we compensate them, but they're definitely, you know, more affordable to us, and they pass on those savings to the students. And then finally, the curriculum itself, we have a mix of resources that are available as open source, which are excellent quality resource, by the way, and then a curriculum that we develop ourselves. But again, it is our own instructors that are excited about developing a better curriculum that are helping us to do that. So we don't outsource this to, you know, an expensive agency. We do all of it in-house. So with all of that, we're able to have a very, you know, low cost structure. And that's why we're able to offer a class in presence with as little as 6 students. There's a minimum cost, obviously, that we incur, but if we reach a threshold of 6 students, we're able to deliver a class which is quite unique. So chances of finding work after finishing the boot camp, I think we've covered this one. And then, so maybe mention the test here.
Yeah, so we have a 25 questions test. I mean, when I say we point you to it, it's actually available on W3 School. It's a really good JavaScript test that aligns very well with our curriculum. It's going to take you 20-25 minutes to do it. Don't cheat on it, because you will be cheating yourself in a way. We don't have ourselves an admission test. It's really for you to decide, should you start with web development fundamentals for 4 weeks to gain the skills that you may be missing, or is it okay for you to sign up directly to front end or full stack? So if you're wondering that, like as no one other, just take the test, and it's going to tell you you have to pass. Your score needs to be higher than 85% for you to feel comfortable about signing up directly to either front end or full stack.
Okay, we have a series of questions. I'm going to try to group them together, but before that, I'm going to jump on, you know, how the 2 boot camps align front end and full stack. So we talked a little bit about it, but I just want to clarify. Full stack is basically front end plus the server side. So, you know, that last bit is just one extra class that completes the full curriculum. So we have a few questions, I guess, for you, Ludo, around, you know, employers or Darius has told employers prefer SQL over MongoDB, and then other questions around.
So definitely, there's really in the database market, there's just 2 ways to go about it. The relational path, which is SQL. Oracle is the bigger player out there. Microsoft with SQL Server is another one, or MySQL from an open source standpoint. And then you have more recent technologies based on JSON documents that MongoDB is pretty much the leader of. I wouldn't say that there's a preference from employers. I'll say that there's a huge legacy in using traditional SQL databases. SQL databases don't scale as well than NoSQL or MongoDB types of databases. And so when you think about everything that's more modern and recent, that thinks about internet level of scale, most of the time you'll see actually MongoDB. So it's always a good thing to know about SQL, but if you're looking at today's market, today's technologies, internet scale, definitely MongoDB has the advantage there.
So question around, are we teaching about APIs in the last
Absolutely.
course?
So the last course actually starts with really the fundamentals of REST APIs, what we call HTTP verbs. So get, post, delete, put, and how that translates into SQL queries or API on the server side. So yeah, we do that.
So the question from Darius around the 2 paths, Android versus iOS, understanding that Android is more Java, iOS is more Swift, and how does React Mobile compare to those frameworks?
Yeah, so I would say React Mobile is as good as those 2, with one exception, is when you think about gaming. If you're thinking about building a 3D game that runs on your device, you're not going to use JavaScript for that, or you shouldn't. you will actually use game engines like Unity or things like that that are optimized for mobiles. I would say for everything else, the quality of the technology nowadays and how the speed of it equals using Swift or Android. What in the past could have been challenging access to hardware features, like, as I said, the camera, the GPS, the accelerometer, all of that there's no issue accessing that using React Native. So I would say there's no strong reason those days to really go for Swift and Java if it's not for mobile gaming. But in that case, you may actually even select something else.
So Christine is asking how we're going to handle the holidays with the November 11th start. My answer is there's no best way to spend your holidays than, coding, but, you may have other plans. So we're going to try to help a little bit here. I think it's always possible to go through one workshop, online, so not attend in person. That's something you can definitely arrange with your instructor as on an exception basis. So, if for Thanksgiving or around Christmas, there's a Saturday where you can be physically present. That's manageable. But other than that, make plans to continue to work throughout the week. So if you're going to be, having a full week off or 2 weeks off, if you're lucky enough for that, build in your schedule to continue to work online for an hour or 2 hours, depending on where you're at in the curriculum, so that you stay on track, because, we really don't want you to fall behind. But again, it's I find that it should be an exciting activity to do during your holiday as well. So question around, do we wait to register? No, register as early as possible. And I'm saying this because as you register, you're actually increasing the number of students present. And therefore, we will reach together the 6 student mark faster. And so that sort of confirms that we're able to deliver the class online. In person, sorry, and not online. So, there's no downside. If there's, something happens, you can check our cancellation policy. It's pretty favorable. You'll get a full refund if you cancel early enough. So, I mean, again, if you're committed to it, commit to it fully and register. By the way, I'll take the opportunity here also to mention, if something happens, we try to make it easy. We understand that life happens, things get in the way. And so we have policies that allow you to postpone for a month for, a small fee of $99. You can put on hold at any time. So even if you're in the middle of the boot camp, you have something going on, a family emergency or a job gets in the way, you got a big project, whatever it is, you can pause and then postpone. And it's just a one-time fee. So if you have to postpone again for some reason, there's no additional fee for that. Okay, so here we go. What kind of tech do we need for the courses in terms of software? Do they have to pay for it? And then what kind of hardware?
Great. So there's no additional cost for our bootcamps. The software that we use are open source and available to download online. So it's Visual Studio, it's Git, GitHub. I saw somewhere talking about CodePen. We use CodePen as well. So no additional software. From a hardware standpoint, Mac or PC, laptop, it has to be a laptop, will work. No Chromebooks. Chromebooks are not powerful enough often, and also won't necessarily allow you to install the software that you will want to install. So avoid Chromebooks. From a hardware spec standpoint, we typically say if it's a PC laptop, something that will cost $500 or more will work. And it's from a spec, really, it's a Intel i5 processor, 8 gig of RAM, and then preferably an SSD hard drive. These are the fastest hard drives. Your hardware is going to be starting to be challenged around the React Native course when we start to run a mobile device emulator on the laptop. And then once you get into the server side, you're going to have a mobile emulator, a server environment, a database. That's when you're going to need the big RAM. And that's why also the Intel i5 would make perfect sense then.
All right. So Deborah here is actually a potential instructor. So that's just good for everybody to know. What happens if classes in my area are in full and are delayed? Can I teach online? Yeah, absolutely. Shoot us an email specifically on that. We usually like our online instructors to be instructors that have already previously taught with us. But again, if you're qualified, we'll definitely look at your profile and see how we can make that happen. Then I think I'm going down. There's a few questions here again on the requirements for laptops and software tools that I think we went through. What learning resources are used for your online curriculum?
Great.
Do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so we are actually in the process of upgrading and our curriculum. So we're building our own curriculum. At this time, really, the supplemental online resources are CodePen, where we build our own CodePens. If you know what that is, it's kind of an environment for you. It's a playground for you to code. And that's pretty much it, actually, at this time. We used to depend a bit more on online resources, and we're moving away from that.
Okay. So Baltimore, specific question here.
Do you know where?
Yeah, we're pretty active in Baltimore. We
Yeah.
have some classes running.
I think where we work, don't we?
So the actual location, we can check that out. But you actually have that on the community webpage. So if you go to Nucamp, that's true for any community. Just select my community, pick the city, and you'll have all the details there. Obviously where the classes are taking place, if they are actually taking place physically. In this case, it's an Impact Hub in Baltimore, but you'll have a lot more, information about the instructors or the potential instructors that are in the community. You'll have also data on the companies that are there. The average salaries, and just a lot more resources that are local to your community. So I encourage you to check that out.
I'll take your question. Has no one other. So how in depth is the web development class? Should you take that or learn on your own? So I will say what makes the difference in our curriculum and what you will be looking for in online equivalent is advanced JavaScript, especially in how JavaScript allows you to manipulate the HTML DOM, document object model. We spent a week and a half on that at the end. So if you're already a little bit advanced, you may get bored for the first part of it. But really, the last 2 weeks are around JavaScript and especially manipulating the document object model. And that's the foundation of everything else, pretty much. That's when we introduce you to the concept of single page application, which is what every modern JavaScript framework does. Angular, React, Vue, they all handle the web page in a similar way. So look up for that. Look up JavaScript and DOM manipulation and learn everything else in terms of fundamentals like HTML5, CSS3, but that in particular. And if you're good with that, and if you pass the 25 questions test, you're good to go. You can certainly register directly to Full Stack.
So next one from Darius is also for you. Do we cover data structures and algorithms in the Full Stack? We actually covered them earlier, right?
Yeah, so we cover them. I would say it's really distributed across the full curriculum. So there's a little bit of JavaScript, data structure, and algorithm in every course that we teach. It's not the level that you will find in a computer science degree, though. I mean, make no mistake. If you want to have a full-blown data structure and algorithm education, we're talking learning Java, spending times learning, types of triaging or pyramid triage of algorithms. We don't do that. Like some people also ask, hey, do I need to know math? I mean, do I have to be very good at math? Same answer, you don't have to be very good at math. The concepts are pretty simple in terms of manipulating data. The algorithm are built in, I will say, into the language, so you don't have to build it yourself.
All right. Susan's actually offering a good answer there on, what about the versions of languages that you're teaching? Yeah, we basically stay current. So you don't have to worry too much about that. Thank you, Susan. Do we have a certification after the boot camps? Yes, absolutely. So for the HTML, we just have a certificate of sort of completion. So that's for the introductory boot camp. And then for advanced boot camps, there's 2 levels of certification at the end. So to actually get certified, you have to complete the boot camp, which means completing all of the assignments with a minimum grade of 6 out of 10 on all assignments. So that's sort of the minimum bar to get your certificate. And then we also have an honors level where we add to that as a requirement to really complete your project and present it. So not only actually have it finished, but present it through a short video. And we offer you the opportunity to actually make it visible through Nucamp. So that's something you can point to as you look for a job.
Robert, are we helping picking a portfolio project? A great question. Yes, we do. And actually we do because we've heard that feedback from students a while ago. They weren't sure what kind of project they should pick. Sometimes they will pick something super challenging to actually implement and there'll be trouble. So we actually offer examples and allow students to also pick different projects if they want to.
Okay, so do both front end and back end study together? Not quite, it's one after the other. So you go through the 3 classes of front end and then the back end class is after that, and that completes the full stack program. But whether you go into front end or full stack, you register, you're on the same track through the first 3 classes, and then the full stack just completes with the last class. By the way, you don't have to take the decision up front. You can register to front end, and when you get towards the end of it, if you want to add the last module, it's just a simple upgrade, and you can take that class. So it's pretty straightforward. So will this course help me be a technical writer as well?
A great question. Well, you need to have, I would say yes. I think it'll go into way more depth than you may need as a technical writer. And I think it will help if your technical writer job is about the module that we are teaching. So if you're going to write about Bootstrap, it's going to help. If you're going to write about React, it's going to help.
But let's be clear as well that we are not teaching any skills related to technical writing. Yeah. So if your core skills are technical writing and you just want to sort of improve your skills to be able to write about software development frameworks that we are teaching, yeah, absolutely, it will help you. But the core technical technical writing skills are not something we teach. All right. You have the next one?
JavaScript.
Oh,
no, Python.
Python, yeah.
So we're going back and forth on that. If you have any thoughts, Leah, on should we add Python sometime in 2020? We've had multiple questions as a team. And if we were to add Python, it will be from the angle of data science. It will not make a ton of sense to do it from the perspective of web development, because we already have kind of what we think is the #1 curriculum for that. And data science doesn't necessarily fit with what we want to do from a social mission standpoint. If you're seeking data scientist positions, most likely you may already have a computer science degree. And so we don't know if that really fits with what our audience wants. And so we're actually all ears. We're still evaluating if we want to do that, if we should do that for you guys. So
we're right about on the hour, so we're going to wrap up pretty quickly here. And by the way, I think if you have to drop off, and Liz was asking about the email's simple. It's info@nucamp.co. I do want to take that last question. What happens if you fall behind in schedule? So first things first, we do everything we can to prevent that from happening. So our instructors are here to touch base with you during the week, make sure that they connect with you, help you go through the learning of the week, and on Saturdays make sure that you go through the complete assignment, because that's really the recipe to be successful. But you're right, sometimes it happens. And so if you do fall behind, you can do a couple of things. You can, pause your boot camp and then pick it up a cycle later, which is 5 weeks later for $99. That just allows you to, catch up and breathe and focus on other priorities if you have other priorities at that time. You can also just retake the class. So, you breeze through the class, you haven't absorbed the learning, you want to retake it, same thing, just for $99, you can retake the class and then continue on from there. So we try to make it easy for you to not fall behind, but more importantly, help you catch up if ever you do.
And if you decide to drop out, then you will not have to pay any additional payment.
Yeah. So when you drop out, what you've paid is paid, and then what remains to be paid is basically canceled. So that's our simple canceling policy. Hey, we want to be respectful of your time. If you have more questions, don't hesitate to send them at info@nucamp.co. We'll make sure to get back to you. But Ludo and I want to thank you for being here today. One last reminder, the early bird pricing expires on Monday, so take advantage of it. It's a significant discount. And we hope to see you all in the boot camp very soon.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everyone.